Welcome to the Passages from the Heart podcast, a podcast featuring real people sharing real stories about adventure out on the water. I'm your host, Shell Hart. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. I'm sorry it's been a little while since I last uploaded for y'all. It's been a little bit of a crazy time of year, not to mention just not because of the holidays only, but as you may know, I have a new boat. I recently took delivery of a 2024 Com-Pac Legacy. I purchased her from a former Com-Pac dealership out of the Houston area at a company called Lynn Sailboats, run by a gentleman named Jeff Lynn. He's been in business, I think he told me 56 years. I'm not sure how much of that time he spent selling Com-Pac yachts, but he also sold Catalinas. So right now, as you know, things are a little nutsy, a little, I don't want to use the word dismal, but for me, in some ways, I sometimes perceive it that way. You know, Com-Pac shutting down in April. And I don't know what the deal is. I have heard all sorts of rumors about Catalina, that they're closed or they're not closed or they're moving their business. And so things are on hold temporarily or indefinitely until they open up a new plant somewhere else to start making boats again. I don't really know. And I feel badly because I don't want to spread rumors. But I can tell you that, another one bites the dust. It's just really pretty crazy and pretty disturbing to see these companies that have been making sailboats just stop doing it. So anyway, my boat came from a dealership where both brands were sold for many, many, many moons. And I happened to come across this boat, as I mentioned in my previous podcast, I believe, from a friend, another Com-Pac friend who purchased a boat from the same dealer and just happened to snap some pictures and send them my way. And even though I had been really zoning in, focusing in, honing in on moving towards a cat boat made by Com-Pac, like the Sunday Cat or Sun Cat, I don't know. There was something inside of me that when those pictures, when I saw them, it was like that, like just literally a snap of a fingers. And I just thought, wait a minute, is this really what I want to be doing? And is this really the direction that I want to go? And seeing those pictures just made me realize once again how I really regretted selling my 2021 Com-Pac Legacy Sunflower, aka Sunny. She was a wonderful boat. And in hindsight, even though I felt it was the best thing to do at the time, and you know, we can't really have regrets, I guess, but I really do, I think, regret, not think, I know I regret selling that boat for many reasons that I won't get into. But anyway, this opportunity that was presented to me, this boat was a brand new boat, but it's been sitting for almost 2 years on the dealer lot. So it's really a 2-year-old boat. So I guess you would call it new, quote unquote, old stock. So this boat is a little bit different from the one that I had before. And that boat was a Hank-on head sail setup, where this boat has a little roller furler, which really, even though I used to moan and groan about it quite frequently, probably about Charm's roller furling system, it was just a little, just how it was set up was kind of not as entirely intuitive as I think it could be. But once I sort of let my brain wrap around the the design of it a bit more, after 3 seasons of using it, I think I finally understand how to do it. Although I will admit, I always sort of have a little bit of like, wait a minute, what? When I go to hoist the sail at the beginning of the season, and then also at the end of the season when I need to take the sail down, then there's always a little bit of revisiting some of the videos that I made to make sure I do everything correctly. The furling system on Solitude, my former Com-Pac 25, was much more straightforward. It was just like, you know, putting a jib, attaching the halyard to the head of the sail and hoisting it, and you're good to go. Now with this new system on the Legacy, I'm not quite sure. It's a Harken system, not a CDI like the other. Actually, I think Solitudes was a Harken to Charms is a CDI. This is it's called a small boat furler. I think it's model number 434, 435, or 483. I can't remember, somewhere in there. And hopefully it will be pretty straightforward to use. I think the real benefit is going to be not having to go forward on the deck of the Legacy, because as I've said many times, there's not a lot of real estate up there, folks. So also, not a lot to really hold on to, although there is a very generous bow pulpit. And then, of course, a single side stay, port and starboard, but no lifelines or stanchions or grab rails or handrails. So, you do really need to be mindful, well, as you should on all boats, I would say, but all the more so because there's really not a lot of room up there. So this furler should be ideal. And I'm looking forward to, sailing this boat, having that piece of equipment on board. But at any rate, the boat, I got an amazing deal on this boat. It's just something I couldn't pass up. And with the older Com-Pac Legacy, the 2008, that boat is spoken for. I'm just waiting for the owner to pick her up at this time of year. It's not going to happen with the snow. We just had major snowstorm. Well, I would guess I shouldn't say major, but we did get 10 inches, and which is a considerable amount here in this area. So yeah, I don't think that it's going to happen. Well, she'll make her way to her new captain until springtime probably. But yeah, this new boat, I put a little tour of the outside and inside of the boat, and I say little or mini tour, I think is what I called it, because the boat is very little, so it doesn't take a lot of time to really show you all the nitty gritty details. So check that out on my YouTube channel. I'll put a link in the show notes or video description. And yeah, so getting back to this episode that I have to share with you, it is revisiting with my very first guest, Ken Johansen, who has had 4 Com-Pacs. He's had a 16, a 19, a 23, and now he has a Suncat. So we sort of go back in time and look to see where we were at that snapshot or period of time when we first connected on the podcast a little over 2 years ago, and sort of follow along, bringing each other up to speed with where we are now and the processes that we went through to get to where we are now. And I really like having had this opportunity to talk to Ken again, because it's really funny to think about where I was back then with where I am now, and to think about all of the things that have happened in that period of time to bring me to where I am now. It's a pretty, at least for me, just very I don't know. I don't want to say heartwarming, because that might sound not like for you. Maybe it's not heartwarming, but for me, it really is a very heartwarming, coming full circle sort of journey that I went on. So I won't say much more than that in this intro, but I really would love for you to stick around and hear my chat with Ken Johansen, where we talk mostly about Com-Pacs, and about sailing in general, and sort of kitting out our boats for adventures out on the water. And yeah, I'm really glad that you're here to take a listen and support this show. It is a really special project in my heart that I have with this podcast. It's something I really enjoy doing, and the reason I enjoy doing it is because I just love connecting with all of you out there. And on that note, just a couple more shout outs. I want to give a shout out to Stephen, and I'd like to give a shout out to Fred, and I'd like to give a shout out to Squally Heifer. I'm hoping to get him back on the show at some point. But it just yeah, I just really appreciate all of the support that I get from all of you. That just really just makes me feel amazing. So yeah, thank you so much. Okay, enough of all of that. And now on to the show. Welcome to the Passages from the Heart podcast. How are you doing today, Ken?
I'm doing great.
Well, I'm excited to reconnect, because if you might remember back 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, when I started this Passages from the Heart podcast endeavor. You were my very first guest. Do you remember all that?
Wow, lucky me.
Well, I wanted to reconnect because there's lots of things that have happened, especially I think to me as far as the boat world goes. And I just sort of wanted to revisit where we were back then and sort of compare and contrast with where
Okay,
we are now,
I think that
because
sounds great.
it's kind of like a little bit of a time capsule being with you, because I think back to, oh my gosh, I mean, we were talking and communicating well before the podcast even. And we had connected through the Com-Pac Yacht Owners Association. And I think I may have not even had a boat by that time. I can't remember if I had my Com-Pac Legacy or not when we first connected.
I think you
But I
did.
was, when we did initially connect, at that time, if memory serves me, you had a Com-Pac 23 and a Com-Pac 16. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So now you have neither one of those boats. And you have, I'll let you tell the listeners about the boat that you're currently sailing.
Well, I have a 2003 Suncat. Its name is Catnap, and I've had it for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years now. And I just really, really, really enjoy it. It was out, 2 days ago, and the weather was just perfect. I'm here in Phoenix, Arizona, and so I sail at Lake Pleasant, which is north of here. And there's two other Suncat people that sail that lake, and we were all up there together a couple days ago and kind of catching up and reminiscing, because we're just coming into our season now. Winter is our sailing season here.
Yeah. Well, the Suncat is an interesting boat, and one that I've been particularly smitten with, and one that I was looking to actually move into from having just come out of a Com-Pac 25. So just to sort of bring listeners up to speed from where I was back then when we first talked. So I believe I had just gotten Charm, my Com-Pac. No, I had my first season with Charm. My Com-Pac 23, she is a 2013 Mark IV model. And, there was quite a bit of infatuation, I would say, with Charm. And what's funny, though, is that with her, I don't know, I guess sort of actually, I'll back up. With the Legacy that I first had, which was a precious little yacht, in my opinion, little pocket cruiser. As a sailor, as you probably will relate because you've had other models as well, you sort of start out with a certain boat. It's usually probably going to be a smaller boat, right? And
Yes. Well, that's
sort of feel,
ideal. Now there are some people that start out with big boats.
yeah, no, there are for sure, most definitely. But I know for me, I did start out with the small Legacy, smaller 16 and a half foot sloop. And it was a really great boat to sort of, for me, get back into sailing after having been away for some time, almost 2 decades, I think. And so, but you, pardon the pun, learn the ropes on that boat. You kind of progress, and you start to sort of feel that little itch that you want to move up in size. And it's kind of something that you almost can't even necessarily put a finger on all the reasons why you want to do it, but it becomes like not only a mission of the mind, but a mission of the heart to sort of get into a larger boat. So, you might remember I actually ended up with the Com-Pac 23 diesel model first. Do you remember that boat that I had?
Oh yeah, yes I do.
Yeah. And I again was very infatuated with that boat when I first had her in my life, but then you might remember I became pretty overwhelmed with her as the months ticked by. And I'm curious because you had let's see, I think the chronology, what's a 16, 19, then the 23, is that right?
Correct. That's correct.
Yeah. So I'm curious if when you were graduating up to those bigger or larger boats, do you ever remember feeling a sense of, although you were excited to have the new boat, do you ever remember sort of feeling, I mean, maybe you weren't as overwhelmed as I was, but did you ever feel a little bit ever that you might be in over your head, or did you always feel like everything was pretty under control and you didn't let the sort of unknowns or challenges uh, destroy the dream sort of thing?
Well, then the 19, I did not feel overwhelmed at all. That was a great boat and it sailed really well. But then the 23 came along, and the 23, that's a big boat. That's a big 23 compared to like a Catalina 22, which is much small. It feels much smaller. So
Yeah.
the 23 is, it's for if one person's handling it, it's a little much. Now, if I was 35, 40 years old, I still have the 23 because I really liked it, and it's you can sail it. But you hate to admit it, but you get older, and it's like, yeah, that's you don't want to. It's more than you really want to handle. And I mean, we all call the Suncat an old man's boat. So those of us that have them here, we're all north of gray hair. So yeah, the 23 was a little more than I wanted to handle.
Yeah, it's funny because I definitely I felt that way when I moved from the Legacy to the 23D, again D for diesel. And I never even sailed that boat because I immediately, almost immediately, well, I shouldn't say almost immediately. Within a couple months, I think I started to see the writing on the wall. And it was part and parcel with the fact that we had a changeover at our marina where we lost the diesel mechanic.
Right.
The marina and that person parted company, and the marina decided to never, they decided that they weren't going to replace him. And I
Yeah.
think when I learned that news, it started making me feel a little uneasy because although the diesel engines are largely or widely known in the sailing community as being, I don't want to say very basic, but more basic perhaps than some other engines, and that with some, practice and studying and Nigel Calder's book, which everybody I have, and I'm sure everybody else that has a diesel engine probably has it too, can help you sort of, do that, like perform that routine maintenance, do the winterization or the summarization, or troubleshoot some issues with the engine. But I think at that point in time, for me, that boat started to feel, not just because of the engine issues, not that the boat had any engine issues, it didn't, it ran fine because we tested the engine, but it had also some other systems on board because the boat had been modified, which you and I have talked a lot about modification of boats and the pros and the cons of that, which we can circle back to that at some point. But the other systems on board that boat definitely, I think, were beginning to sort of intimidate me. And so the quest for the next 23 came once I sold the diesel version of the 23. And then that's what brought me to Charm. And with her, I sort of felt like that boat was just in some ways a bigger version of my Legacy because it certainly lacked the number of through hulls that the prior 23D model had. I think that boat had 7 through hulls, whereas
Wow.
Charm, she only has the 2 scuppers in the stern, like all Com-Pacs pretty much have, I believe, and then a through hull for the bilge water to exit, and then a through hull for the fuel line. Like you probably remember. Well, I don't actually. I think you had a different engine on you had a propane, I think, on your 23, right?
Well, I did, but then I sold it. I had, it's a great motor, but I had trouble with it for some reason or other. But the person that bought it was great, so maybe it just didn't let it break in. But the main thing with the 23 was the mast. It definitely took 2 of us to raise it, and I don't know. Raising it up, I felt like, oh man, this thing could get away from me, and it made me nervous. We never had
You
any
did
problem
have,
raising it, but it was just
yeah.
enough to where it felt kind of like, whoa, this thing could get away from you.
I thought you had told me once a story about how it did almost, and it almost landed on your partner, right?
No, no, I don't think that ever happened. That might be that wasn't me.
Oh,
No,
okay.
she would. I'm trying to think how we did. We did it. We raised it with the winch, with the trailer winch, is how we raised it. And so she would man the winch, and it came right up. It was not a problem, but still, it kind of went, to where you feel like, whoa, this thing could get away from you as it's going up. So
Yeah, yeah. I
I ended
definitely
up putting
never.
some. I ended up putting some. I don't know what you call them, but some lines on the mast that were the side of the boat to keep it from going over if it ever did. But like I said, I never really went over. It never really went close to going over, but it sure felt like it could.
Well, I never had the pleasure, except for one time, stepping a 23 mast, and there were six of us that were
Yeah,
working on the boat at the time, and it
right.
just, yeah, I just felt like we used a gin pole too. I didn't have a mast raising system, although I know Com-Pac made them for I think the 23 and maybe some of the other models, but I
Oh,
never looked into
they
getting.
even make them for the Suncat.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Interesting. I
yeah.
didn't. Well, all I can say is that having come from that diesel to going to the non-diesel version really felt like a huge relief, because it just seemed to me it was just more simplified. And for where I am with access to the services that I have available to me, which is pretty minimal for sailing services, it just felt like a better arrangement. But as you know, then I got the itch again, right? To get a bigger boat. So where you ended up getting the itch to go downsize, and I got the itch to go bigger. Uh, well, but then after I had that bigger boat, then guess what? I decided to come full circle and downsize again too. So, um, yeah, I guess, are there things that you miss about that 23, that you don't feel like? For example, oftentimes on the forum, I see a lot of people that are like me that never sailed on a gaff rig, well, a cat boat, a cat rig gaff rig boat. And are there things, looking back to having those experiences sailing the models that were the 16, 19, and 23, like what would you tell someone who was kind of worried, like I was, about moving from a boat that has a head sail to one that doesn't, or just not even so much even just that, but just some of the other things that where the experience, is going to be different? Like, how would you tell people who are, like I said, interested in moving to a Suncat, but having come from a background like you did, like, what would you make them aware of? Like, well, you might want to think about this or consider that, or, you may have to transition to this, or the sailing might be different because of that, or what would you say to that person?
Oh gosh, I guess the only thing I'm sitting here thinking what I would say. The only thing I would say is that I guess you have to decide if the one sail is going to work for you versus the two sail. I have to admit, having a main and a jib is kind of fun. When you're coming about and such, and it's with the two sails. Obviously, with the Suncat, it's just one sail. You come around and you go again. So
Right.
you're not working with two sails. Now, I've never had a roller fur, but I've certainly sailed on boats with them, and they're great, and they're really handy. But yeah, that's the only thing to consider is if you're going to be good with one sail versus working with two sails. And they say, and we all know that they are correct, that the boats with two sails will go faster and sail better. But I've on the Suncat, I've really not missed it at all. I think it sails great. So,
Yeah.
but
How would
then,
you
again,
describe
I'm not a racer. I go out and I just, go out for a day and I enjoy it. And sometimes we stay overnight and, it's just very easy. So.
how would you describe the tacking and jibing experiences from a boat like a 19 or a 23 where you're working with two sails compared to the Suncat? Like, is it? Can you kind of does anything in your mind stand out as remarkably different when you're tacking or jibing the boat?
Well, when I'm out on when I'm out on the cat boat, I think, okay, this is a cat, and you know how cats are; they have their own minds. Um,
Yeah.
that's what I think of the sun cat, because when I come about, I'll start coming about, and I'll get halfway through, and all of a sudden it just stops, and then I have to go the other way, and then it comes about that way. And I learned something. Actually, the other day, I did something a little bit different. Was when I was coming about, I just let go of the sail, and she did come around. So I guess I learned that don't hang on to the sail while you're coming about. Um, so
Interesting.
otherwise, it's just going to stop in the middle of it. And like I said, to some degree, it's got its own mind. So, but it makes it kind of fun.
So does the boat just sort of go into irons, like you just are just sitting there
Yeah.
head to wind and stall out sort of
Yep.
thing?
Yep. Yep. It
Yeah.
just sits there and the way to what's the word? Heave to on a cat.
Yeah.
The best way to heave up is just go like this. Just let everything go, and it'll heave itself. You don't have to do anything.
Interesting.
It'll just sit there and yeah. I mean, it's just like I said. It's kind of got. I mean, in my mind, it's kind of got a mind of its own. So, which is pretty
Right.
cool.
Interesting. Yeah. There is do you have that book that I can't remember who wrote it, but I just remember that there's a forum member. He has a picnic hat. Uh, and Bruce, if you're out there listening, that it's you that I'm talking about. But there's a book that he recommended to me when I, was really totally like, I'm getting a sun cat. Had it made up in my mind that that's the way I was going to go. And he recommended this book. I'll have to look it up to see what it was on that thread that I started.
I
But
think I know what you're
apparently,
talking about. It's the cat boat book.
yeah. Is it?
Yeah, I have
Do you
that.
remember?
I have that book. I think you can get it online. Download it for free. I think
Yeah.
even. But anyway, I have it downloaded.
Yeah, and he, like I said, he highly recommended that, and I do have to admit that, one of the things I think why people have, no, I don't know if I want to say hesitation or reluctance or fear or what, but sailboats can be a little intimidating to people that have never done it before. I think not just because of the healing thing, although I think a lot of times that sort of seems to be the number one thing that people freak out about. But I think another thing that people might get intimidated about is the running rigging and how much of it there can be. Now on a racing boat, there's going to be a lot more. On my legacy, my new legacy, it's very simple, which is exactly what I wanted to go for.
Right.
But I think for me, the running rigging on that cat boat, I mean, you have a halyard, you have your two halyards, I guess. But it's still, even for someone like me who has a sailing experience or has sailing experience or a background in sailing, I still admit that I felt a little intimidated by that. So how did you sort of, I mean, when you left or got the 23 sort of moved on and had a new caretaker and you have this new sun cat, did you just sort of just dive into it and just like, well, I'm just going to, learn by doing, or did you already sort of have a pretty good understanding about raising and more specifically, I think what I'm kind of curious about too is trimming that sail. So, how, and then people talk also about how you can, it's some sort of a word with an SC, skullet or I don't know. There's some, oh, I can't remember what the phrase is, but it's just basically a way of, I think that it may be also related to the heave to sort of thing. But anyway, how did you sort of tackle that, like going from that one, having sailed a sloop for so many years and then having to jump over and sort of learn some new, ways that the boat's rigged and how to sort of sail it with the rigging that you have?
Um, I just jumped right into it. I just I just jumped right into it, and yeah, I mean, I guess the on the job training.
Right. So
It was different because you got that one big sail, but
yeah.
yeah, it was just I just jumped right into it.
So when you want to, so there's the peak halyard and then there's the throat halyard. Is that right?
I think that's what they call it, something like that. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the gaff boom, it's going to be that boom that's at the top of the sail, right? And
Right.
then just the boom at the bottom, like on a sloop. But so what is there some reason, because this is sort of what I had the impression that there are certain circumstances when you might want to release the halyard for the gaff boom and lower it a little bit while you're sailing. Is that true, or is that just something that I'm making up in my
That's
mind?
true. That's called I think it's called scandaling. Is that the word?
Yeah, scandalizing.
Scandalizing, something like that. Scandaling, yes,
Yeah.
because you are making the sail smaller. Now, when I read that, read about that, they say that's kind of something that you do to do a quick reduction in sail, but they do they do suggest you don't do that in lieu of reducing the sail itself. So
Like with
yeah,
reefing it, you mean?
that they don't. They suggest don't do that in lieu of reefing. That you still. I've
Right.
never reefed it though. I mean, I have all these reefing lines and all this kind of stuff, and I've been in
Yeah.
some decent blows, and I've never. I was like I was telling the other day when I was out the other day, the um, the wind was great, but every once in a while there'd be this whoosh, right? For like 3 minute, and it would hit the sail. The boat would go lean over a little bit, but she would be like, "Whoa, let's go," and it would just take off.
Yeah.
And so I never
Wow.
felt, and I've been in, last year, um, I was in a real high wind situation, and it was great. I was going downwind, and I thought, oh man, this is really great. And I didn't even realize how much wind I had behind me. And then when I went to turn around, I was like, oh man, all hell just broke loose. But it handled it great. I mean, it'll handle way more than you can.
Yeah. Well, they say that model is a very stable, forgiving sort of. And I kind of
Yes.
feel like all compact boats that I sailed have been that for me. Like I never. One of the things I always thought when I first got my 2021 Legacy Sunflower, aka Sunny, I remember stepping onto the boat from the dock and expecting the boat just to go whoa,
Yeah.
like tip towards me where all my weight was in the boat, and the boat didn't do that. And I
No, it's
remember
pretty
thinking,
stable.
yeah, I was really very taken aback by that, because I mean I knew the reputation of these boats, but I never had one up until that point. But I just, yeah, that really sort of stood out in my mind as a testament to how sturdy and stable they are. Now, I haven't ever sailed on a similar size, like say a Catalina 16 or 18 or a 14, or but certainly, the like a laser, which I think is 14 feet, or I mean, those are totally different boats. I guess that's really
14.
not fair to compare apples to oranges in that respect. But my point is, for that size of boat, being 16 and a half feet, it is remarkably stable, and you really have a big boat feel. So I'm
Yep.
assuming with the cat boat that you had, the Sun Cat and the Sunday Cat and the Sun Cat, that's the open boat model, that I sort of did a little bit more research on that one too, actually, when I was looking at boats earlier this year. They have Oh, I can't remember what they displace, those three models. You remember what the displacement is on those? I'll have to look it up. But the
No.
Legacy, I think, is 1,000 pounds.
Uh-huh.
I want to say that your boat, because it's longer, it's how long is the Suncat? Do you remember?
17, and I think it's about 1,500 pounds.
Yeah, yeah. I know that I remember the difference between the Legacy and the Suncat ballast. So like your boat has 300, my boat has 400.
Right.
And I think I'm no naval architect and I don't understand all the physics behind it, of course, that well, but your boat also has a beam that's a foot wider, I think, than
Yes.
my boat. So my boat's 6 feet. I think it's 6 feet, six and a half, or
Mm-hmm.
I think it's six. And I think your boat is seven and some change. So you're gonna have you get your stability not just from the ballast, but also because of the wider beam, which cat boats historically, if memory serves me, I think when I was researching them, they were really built for the beam to be half the size of the length. So the
Right.
measurement, if you have a 20-foot boat, you're going to have a 10-foot beam. So
Right.
compacts aren't quite up to that spec. I mean, I don't think, but they're pretty darn close to it. But but yeah, I think the stability thing for me for sure is an important was an important thing, and another reason why I to get back to the 23, why I thought going bigger from the Legacy would be ideal, because one of the challenges for me with the Legacy, which you don't have on a Suncat, of course, but I always felt just a little bit vulnerable going forward on the deck to
Oh
work
yeah.
on the head sail was
Oh
Hank
yeah.
on.
Oh yeah.
Not much real estate up there. And so, yeah, if you're in the, which I was at times, in the middle of a lake, and it could get a little roly poly out there. And yeah, and there's really not also, on the Legacy, there's not like, there is a very generous bow pulpit for, so you can hold on to for stability, but there are no lifelines, and there's only one side stay, which I believe your boat has. I mean, port and starboard. I mean, there. Whereas on a 23, there's like three to each side. So my point is,
Yes.
there's not a lot to hold on to. I don't even have handrails or grab rails on my deck. Do you guys have that on the Suncat? I can't remember. Are
No.
there grab
No.
rails or handrails?
No.
Okay. Uh, so 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 for me, like I said, going to that 23 felt like a big. I hesitate to use the word improvement, but it kind of was. I mean, I have to be fully honest. It was an improvement with having more real estate up on the deck to move around. But then at that point, I really didn't need it, because that boat came with a roller furler, so I wasn't having to go deal with sail changes so much. Um, so walking around on the Legacy, for me, I sometimes feel like, ooh, I'm gonna have to really get my spider legs back because it is there's not as much to grab onto. Do you feel ever like on your boat, if I mean there's really not a reason to go forward, I guess, unless for docking or anchoring. Do you do a lot of anchoring on your boat? Have you really done
No,
much of that?
I've done it. I've done it, but no, not a lot. I'm pretty much most of the time I just day sail. But
Yeah,
no, I don't like going forward on it, because, as you
yeah,
know, the mast on a cat is well forward versus what you have on your boat. Um,
right.
so the only reason I go up there is if for some reason the sail gets stuck or something like that. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a comfortable thing to walk up in front of that.
Yeah, I would also say that I think another thing that sort of made me a little hesitant about the Suncat was that typically you don't find a bow pulpit on them, or
Right, right,
so not that, again, that is a deal breaker. It's just, I guess, maybe because I've come from having had one on almost, well, on every boat
right.
that I've ever had, and especially for like when you're docking, it's kind of nice to have that to hold, for a small boat. You don't want to try
Sure.
to get in the way of a big boat and then get yourself injured as a result of
Yep.
trying to fend the boat off the dock. But
Yep.
having that bow pulpit is really, I think, sort of handy. Um, Yeah, well, let's talk about some of the interior accommodations on your boat because I want to sort of compare. I think with my new boat, my Legacy, I'm really excited, which is going to maybe surprise some of the listeners because the whole reason why I wanted to get the 25, the compact 25, is because when the first mate and I spent one night, we spent only one night aboard Charm, our 23. We were in the V berth, and we both woke up the next morning and looked at each other and said, "We need to get a bigger boat," because we were like hitting each other in the middle of the night, an elbow in the face here or a knee there or whatever. And I thought, this is not very comfortable.
Well, the 23 is much better than 19.
Well, and it's much probably better than my boat, I would say too. Although the difference is going to be for sleeping, which I think is similar to what your boat, your Suncat, is that. So on the Legacy, the V berth is there isn't one actually. That portion of the boat is dedicated to creating storage for your rode, for your anchor chain and line, and then there's some storage compartments as well. And you're going to find the where the battery is stored is up in that area or near that area, and
Yes.
also your electrical panel and a cabin
Hmm.
light is sort of in that area too. So the sleeping arrangement in my Legacy is going to be more like main settee to a partial quarter berth sort of arrangement. Although you can have I believe that there's like a filler that you can put in between both bunks, if you will, to make it like a full bunk. But I don't know where I probably would have to fabricate something like that because I don't think that part is available anymore. And speaking of that, I'm just going to say, just so people know that are listening that are Com-Pac owners, if you haven't heard, the word on the street is that there is a company called Fathom Metal Works, which we will put the link in the show notes description. They evidently were fabricating quite a few of Com-Pac parts anyway. And so, I don't know, month or 2 months ago, maybe three, they made an announcement on the forum that their official announcement that they are carrying the parts, many parts, I shouldn't say everything, but many parts for compact boats. And they actually moved their operation into the old Com-Pac facility, I think is what I heard too. Again, this is what I heard. I don't know for a fact. But I thought that was kind of cool when I learned that
Right.
piece of news because I felt happy to know that that building that was where Com-Pac was for so many years is still serving the sailing industry or the boating industry, which is nice. But anyway, so I don't know where I could get that filler cushion, but I think that the sleeping arrangements might be a little more comfortable, oddly, than it was on the 23. So for you on that Suncat, it's the same sort of setup, I think, right? With there's the up in the very bow of the boat, it's sectioned off for the house hole for your
Hmm.
anchor road and the line and whatnot, and then where your electrical is up there too, right?
Hmm. Yep. Yes.
Okay. And so I'm trying to think. Do you have a filler cushion for your boat or no? For
Do
the
I have
two
a what?
berths in between? A
Yes.
filler
Well,
cushion?
there's two berths, and then there's kind of a floor opening in between the two.
And but is there room to still have like a porta potty in there with that cushion in or no? Because for
Yeah.
my boat,
Yes. 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 The porta potty's under the deck, and so there's still plenty of room for the porta potty. I'm just not sure you'd
right?
want to use it if you're in there with somebody else.
Yeah, right. Well, that's the thing. Like if I had that filler cushion in my boat, I don't think that there would be room for a porta potty, to be honest
Right.
with you. But I will say that one of my goals is, this whole thing for me, and I know for you, you're not maybe doing this right now, but I'm sort of looking forward to transitioning from being stationed at one lake
Right.
to going and checking out other lakes.
Right.
And so I'll be doing trailer sailing for the first time. And all the last 5 years I've had slips, and I just sort of reached the end of my rope, with all the fees that I've been sort of, not that it's not worth it. Boats, I know people always say, oh, bring on another 1,000 or whatever those acronyms are for how, or you're just throwing your money into a hole or whatever. But I don't agree with that. I mean, yes, they are expensive to maintain. I get that. If you're having slip fees or storage fees, shrink wrap fees is another one for me that I'm just sort of done doing, because our marina won't allow you to tarp a boat. They it's against their regulations or rules or whatever, and so unless you have a custom made cover, which is kind of hard to find sometimes for certain models. I've looked into it, and I don't have a lot of luck tracking down the Com-Pac covers, except for the 25. I think they had one at the place that I looked. But anyway, you're dropping I don't even want to say how much money I spent to have charm shrink wrapped, because it's really, yeah, I mean, it's a lot, and I'm not really excited
Yeah.
about it. And
Yeah,
so,
my sister's got a 35 foot, 32 foot Chris-Craft, and they shrink wrap it every year. So.
it adds up. It really adds up. And, it's, again, part of the ownership. It's just like I have horses, and I remember when I was a kid and I would beg my parents, can't I have a horse? Here's one for sale. It's only $100 or something, and my parents would say, now, honey, it's not the cost of the horse. It's the cost of, because you're paying for all the vet bills, you're paying for the feed, you're paying for the board, if you don't have your own farm, of course. So it's the same thing with boats. It's not just buying the boat. There's all the other things that are associated with it, depending upon how you choose to approach it, which for me, this is going to be a new approach, the trailer sailing. I didn't even have my boat bottom painted. I think I might have told you that, right?
Right. That's great.
Yeah. I thought, well, I don't really need to, because I'm not going to keep the boat in a slip. So I'm going to save some money. But anyway, so I sort of digressed. I'm sorry. I was wanting to talk about the interior, because I do want to camp out on my boat. And the first mate's like, really? You want to? I'm like, yeah. And I said, it was funny because he was a Boy Scout and he used to camp out all the time in tents. I'm like, it's just as big as a tent in there, if not bigger, right?
It is.
So I'm excited for that. And I don't know, did you ever do you did do an overnight on your boat, I think, right? Didn't you have some event with your sailing club and you guys all went out and?
Yep. I've slept on all the boats that I've had, even the 16 that I had, and it was fine.
Yeah. There's something that's very, I think, comforting about that,
I mean,
sleeping on the boat.
I thought it was, I think with your new boat, you'll be fine sleeping on it.
Yeah, I do too. I think so too. I think it's like I said, it'll be different because we're not crammed up into that V berth area. Now, granted, we could have probably slept on the settees and charm too, but we just decided, we just traveled that road of getting the 25, and
Yeah.
and you learn. People, I think, don't, or maybe might underestimate the sort of the gifts or the blessings that we get from these experiences that each boat sort of teaches us, and helps us sort of realize the sailor that we want to be, or and become, because I think that's why I got that bigger boat. I don't know, why did you want to get the 23 when you had the 19? What was the big motivation behind that?
Oh, two-foot-itis, and the sleeping, the compression post on the 19 was kind of hard to get around to get into sleeping, where the 23 is wide open, and plus the 23. When I bought the 23, it was like it was like new. I mean, it was about as new as you were going to get, yet being a number of years old. I mean, the guy that had it rarely sailed it, and it was like in perfect condition.
Yeah.
So it was a really good
Yeah.
one. But I was going to say, on the Suncat, we keep it fully stocked. It's got a stove in there, and I've got real dishes and real knives, forks, and spoons, and I was even rummaging around the other day, even got my toothbrush in there. So it's ready to go anytime for,
Oh, wow.
yeah. Got pots and
How
pans in
did you,
there,
so one of,
got pots and pans, everything.
how do you, how do you store all that? So do you have like bins that you keep things in and then just keep it in the aft end of the boat, or how do you set that all up? Because there's not like a,
Most of it's in bins. And the Sun Cat, when you come in off the through the companionway, there's like a little storage area down below that's where I keep the stove and the dishes. And then the the um, the inside is long enough to where you can kind of store some other bins, beyond where the bed is. And yeah, I mean, and then even up front, I have a camping pots and pans set that where they all go in each other, and in a nice little camping bag, and those are stored up front.
oh,
And yeah, it's yeah.
that sounds like a really cool setup. I'm curious, what sort of camping stove would you recommend? Because I don't have one yet.
It's a little butane one burner stove. I mean, they're cheap, like, I don't know, 20-30 bucks for them. And they use those
Mm-hmm.
little butane cylinders. Mine uses either the little butane cylinders there's an adapter that you can use with the propane bottles that you get like at Walmart.
Okay, so you don't have one of those jet boils. I hear that people really like those too. Those
No,
jet boil. Yeah,
no,
yeah.
no,
Well,
just a regular old stove.
yeah, I'm trying to think. When I had my first legacy, one of the things I wanted to do, and I couldn't ever figure out how to do it, because the inside of my boat, the overhead, so above your head, and then the sides of the boat are this. They don't ask me why, but for some reason I read that when we think of a ceiling in a house, it's over our head. But what I learned in nautical glossary or terminology is that the overhead is what really is the ceiling in a boat, and that the sides are what they call the ceiling. Maybe that's
Mm,
wrong, but I picked that up
I don't
somewhere.
know.
But it's all carpet, like marine carpet in my boat. So there's no like on the 23, there's all sorts of wood everywhere. So if you wanted to hang those gear hammocks, which is what I wanted to do, is get those, like those little, you see
Yep,
them, it's like a netting, and that you
yep. I've
can,
got two of them in the Sun Cat.
yeah, like a hammock, right,
Mm-hmm.
but for
Yep,
gear.
yep.
And I want to put some of those in my legacy for sort of storing some, like whether it's towels or whatever, but I can't figure out how to attach, or what to, you know, how to affix them to the sides of the boat, because there's no wood in there to hammer into, if you will. So I don't know if anybody out there has any ideas, or Ken, if you have any ideas how I'm trying to think of, rather than just having bins, because I do have some generous storage in the aft end of my legacy too. I just made a video for people about the boat on the inside as well as on the outside. But so like under the cockpit sole on my boat, between underneath that and then in the cabin area, that's all storage in there as well. It's not very tall or deep, but you could definitely throw an extra anchor or life jackets or whatever in there to store, in addition to having that storage that's underneath the cockpit seats themselves. So I'm sort of having fun trying to think of the setup. So I don't know if you have, next time you go to your boat, I'd be curious if you could take some pictures to kind of show me how you laid everything out in there, because it might help me get some ideas for setup in my own boat for that. Because I want to kit her out with that kind of stuff so that we can, we won't be going for extended lengthy stays, but we could do an overnight, and that would be really, really fun, because I totally love camping. I just never get really a chance to do it that frequently because of the circumstances that I'm in with having a farm and animals to care for. But it's easier to go away and find animal care for one night than it is like when we were going all the way up to Lake Superior for 5 days at a time, 2 days of driving for 3 days of boat time. It's harder to find care for a situation like that.
Right.
But But anyway, so we'll see how the trailer sailing thing goes. There's a lot of people that certainly do it, and I'm excited to sort of migrate into that territory away from just being dockside or at the same lake. And I don't know. How about you? Do you ever kind of get tired of being at the same lake? Do you feel like there's enough to explore that keeps you busy, or do you sort of have ever ideas about wanting to venture other places?
I don't know. I just enjoy being out on the water, and you know, I mean, I
Yeah.
my main sport is I ride a bicycle every day, and I do the same route every day, and I never get tired of it. So I guess being at the same lake is no big deal. What I
Yeah.
do get tired of is the amount of time that it takes to get there. I mean, it's a good hour and 15 minutes from here.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's the thing that I have the same sort of
Yeah,
travel time to get
I'd
to.
love to find something closer.
But there are closer lakes then,
Yeah, but they're
or no?
small. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're small and they're
Yeah.
supposedly not good for sailing.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too, like we were talking about the other day, is having community, right? And so
Right.
when you are at that one lake, you were just telling me there were how many other Sun Cat owners there?
Two.
Yeah. So it's nice to have, you can sort of support each other. And I wish that I had that at where I am, but most people have giant, well, they're not really giant. They're 30 plus to 35 feet boats. There are
Yeah.
some small boats too, but there are quite a few larger sailboats. Well, I shouldn't say quite a few. There's less than maybe, I don't know. I think I counted last time that there were like 20 sailboats on the entire lake, where when I was a kid, it was like at least double that, if not more.
Yeah, one of the
So
other
it's pretty,
Suncat
pretty
owners
crazy.
that's out there, he's out camping like every other week. He's out there on an overnight somewhere. I mean, he's amazing
Yeah.
in how many times he goes out camping with his boat.
Does he go by himself too?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. A
So
lot of
I
time.
think that's, go ahead.
Oh, I just yes, he goes out by himself and he just really enjoys getting out.
Yeah. Well, I think on that note, I think one of the positives I would say about that Suncat that you have is that it's probably, of all the models, one of the most, I don't know, designed for single handing in some ways, right? Because of that hinged mast,
Yep.
the
Well, I don't
mast
know.
tender.
I never had any trouble handling the 16 foot. Yeah, and I don't think you will on yours. I really never had any trouble single handling the 19 or the 23 either. The only deal with the 23 was raising and lowering the mast. That
Yeah.
was kind of intimidating. But backing it into the, because I keep it in dry storage and I keep it masked up, and
Yeah.
so you know that would just hook up and back it into the water. So that wasn't the problem. Like I said, it was the mast that concerned me.
Yeah, but you don't have to worry about that with the Suncat at all, right?
Nope,
You can, yeah.
no.
Is that kind of the reason why you decided to get into that boat from the 23, or
That's
just
a
because
large
it's,
part of it. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That
Yeah, I think
yeah.
I think definitely for us, uh not for everybody, because there's plenty of people who are our age or older even that are still sailing larger yachts out there, offshore sailing and circumnavigating. Like I said, Jean Socrates, I think she's 82 or something, and
All right.
um, I think I did hear that she might have crew from time to time, but I know that she had done. I think she circumnavigated though solo, well, at least when she was in her 70s. So I mean, it's not like it's not think something that can be done. But I even, like I said, the guy that wanted to buy my other legacy, or that is going to buy, he's 89, and he just
Wow,
said, yeah, he said, I just have to, I can't. He said, if I can't sail, I might as well be dead. Those were his words.
wow,
So,
wow. That's great.
so yeah, so it is. I mean, there's, you got to be healthy enough to do it, I guess, too. That is sometimes something that can prevent us from being able to
Well,
do
you
what
know,
we
there's
want to
no
do.
reason with these little boats that you can't sail, well into
Right?
your 80s. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, there's no reason why you can't.
Yeah.
I know a lot of
Well,
guys, a lot of people do.
yeah, I'm looking at the clock, and I know I said an hour, and I know you have other things you wanted to do, so I don't want to take up too much more of your time. But I'm really so grateful that you were willing to come back on and have a round
Thank you.
two on the podcast and share
Thank you.
some of your thoughts on the boats that you've had, as well as more details on that Suncat, because I do have to admit it is something that always still is a boat that I wouldn't mind having one day, to be honest. But I just like I told you, this legacy that I have, I'm never selling this boat.
I'm not
It's
going to let you
just,
sell it.
yeah, I'm not. I'm really, it feels great to come full circle and
Oh
realize
yeah,
all these things
they're
that,
great. They're great boats. They really are great boats.
yeah. Well, you are a wonderful friend, and I just love all of the support that you always give to me with anything, whether sailing related or not. But I know I can always count on you to sort of help me find my way sometimes when I might hit some troubled waters. You
Oh,
always have some great insight from your experience from the years of sailing that you've been doing, and I'm sure that our listeners are going to find all of your advice and your approaches are going to be helpful for them too. So thank you
well,
so
thank
much,
you.
Ken.
I'm always glad to
Oh,
help.
yeah. So let's keep in touch, and
Yep.
until next time. Okay.
Okay. All right. Good luck.
Okay. Thank
Thanks.
you. Bye.
Bye.
If you are enjoying my podcasts, please consider following and or subscribing to my show. Your support truly means the world to me, as well as inspires me to keep bringing you stories from others out there with a passion for getting out on the water. Until next time, fair wind.